Marlin Peters, welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. I met you at the conference at in Hamburg, Pennsylvania, this little suburb of Harrisburg, when I heard about this expo that was going on there, and I ran into you as one of the vendors, and very intrigued by what you had to offer. I do remember going into one of your little copper balls. I think it was the same thing that you are sitting in right now, as a matter of fact, to do a meditation, and I certainly felt very enlightened when I was doing that. So I knew that there was something special to that product of sorts, and it's great that I can have you on the show right now, not only to give you the chance to do a sales pitch on your product, of course, which I will let you do, but we need to get into the science behind why this stuff works. Now, your website, if I may, up here, Mars Energy Tools, that's Mars with a Z, not an S, marsenergytools.com, your source for tensor rings and healing energy implements. It seems like copper is the metal of choice for you and not silver and gold. Everybody's always obsessed about gold and silver, especially in this day and age of crazy inflation, where everybody's buying a lot of gold and silver as a hedge against inflation. But well, this is obviously different. We're talking about spiritual stuff here, and copper seems to have great qualities to it. So you've got the floor now. Why don't you introduce yourself, just to start this interview off from a primary source perspective. To set the tone for this interview, who is Marlin Peters? What did he research? What did you experience that causes you to do the stuff that you do? You've got the floor. I don't have Alex Jones-itis. I do not interrupt my guests. So I will put myself on mute and let you talk about whatever you want to talk about to introduce yourself from a primary source perspective. You've got the floor. Please set the tone for the rest of this interview.
Okay, great. Thank you, Andrew. Nice to be on your show. I appreciate it. So the copper deal, and I would like to say you can interrupt me at any time. I don't mind, and we'll pick it up. And if I'm missing something or you need clarification, go ahead and interrupt me. I began this learning process about tensor rings. They're called TENSOR. I had a condition Lyme, and someone suggested I check into something. And when I did, I saw this person holding this ring up, and he called it a tensor ring, and I started researching it and became fascinated by it. Wasn't really sure why, and I just was studying videos on making it, and my wife would come in and say, why do you keep doing that? And I'm like, I don't know. There's something here. And next thing you know, I decided I wanted to build a PVC pyramid, and I knew the website for this. It's now Stargate Pyramids, but I emailed this guy, and he never got back to me. And I called him, and he said, where are you at? And I tell him I'm in Duncannon. He goes, I know, but where? And when I told him, he goes, I'm 3 miles up the road. I just drove by your house. Come and visit me. And when I did, we never got to talk about the pyramids. He told me he had this other business that he was going to let go of and didn't have time to do it and wasn't doing much. And he told me what it was, and I was floored. He made tensor rings. So he was surprised that I even knew what they were. This was 3 years ago, March. And I helped him make a few for 2 days. And the second day he goes, he could feel my passion. He knew what I was experiencing making these things. And he said, if you want this business, you can have it. Just give me a little bit of money whenever you get it. And so that's what I did. I started making rings, mostly small rings for neutralizing EMF, electromagnetic fields or frequency, which create a microwave radiation. We all have EMF in our body. We're electromagnetic individuals. The earth is, the atmosphere is. But so I began learning more about these things, and here's the gist of the tensor rings. If you just take a piece of wire, join the ends together, it creates this field inside called a tensor field. And the field will literally amplify whatever the energy is around it. So if you cut a piece of wire exactly a certain length, it's this the fellow that started this, Slim Sperling, was given this measurement. So he cut a piece of wire, he had someone with equipment measure the energy or the frequency, and it was 144 megahertz, which they called the earth frequency. And because it's copper, when it's made, it creates a crystalline structure. So energy flows from one end to another, from negative to positive. And gold and silver will do the same thing, although I could never make a sphere like this out of gold or silver. And I wouldn't have the money to do it, I don't think. But anyway, so they started making implements of copper. And then after a while, they added gold and silver. Now, they enhanced the energy of it a little bit, but mostly people were wanting a little bling. People had more money saying, can we get the same tool in gold or silver? So they figured out a way. He was a meddler just in order to add the gold and silver. Okay, so back to the wire. If you take this wire and fold it in half, okay, now you got energy going this way and this way. And twist it and cut it exactly the length and then solder the ends together, you've got a flow of energy this way and a flow of energy that way. And it creates a positive flow out of both sides. That tensor field magnifies that 144 megahertz. And we've used these rings, small ones like the one I'm wearing right here. I have the individual had a pacemaker, told me that when he put this pendant on it, released the pressure in his chest immediately. But people will use this also to neutralize the microwave radiation and the dirty electricity off of fluorescent lights from your cell phone, cell towers, Wi-Fi, PCs, you know, anything. It's all in the air, especially now that we are bombarded with 5G. Thanks for giving us a choice in that. So, well, you know what's happening. I was watching some of your videos, Andrew, and so you see what's going on, and you talk to people who are more aware, and I appreciate that. So anyway, so these neutralize the 5G energy, and they create healing as well. This sphere started out as a small one that I'm holding in my hand, and it's a bracelet, and it opens up into a sphere. So my wife had carpal tunnel. First time I made one of these, she put it on and no more pain. And now when we go out, she'll sit this on the table in front of us, and it neutralizes all the stuff around us, from the dirty electricity to other people's cell phones. So just if you're EMF sensitive, these are great tools for that. I've used these tools, had people buy them. A lady in Florida reduced 2 large ganglion cysts just for wearing this bracelet for a month. So the tools do all kinds of cool things. The guy who began making these, Slim Sperling, sent them out to practitioners to find out what their take was. And he also had a friend who was a very sensitive clairvoyant. So she literally could see the energy coming out of these tools. And I'll give you an example of one. This is called a feedback loop. Don't know if you can see it very well, a double wire feedback loop. And so they designed this after Tesla's caduceus coil. They don't count the wraps, but what is important with this is the measurement. If you make something in exact measurement, or a multiple or exact division, like a 1 cubit or a half a cubit or 4 cubits, you will get the same frequency. And so he would take this and hold it up to someone's injury, and his clairvoyant friend could see what looked like diesel smoke coming out of a person's injury. And then what happens is it will pull negative energy in, it reverses phase 2/3 of the way around, and it comes out as healing light. So just as a person that does Qigong with the pull energy in, and they can take and see and feel an injury, and they will take and it doesn't look like anything to the human eye, but they're pulling that density out of that injury and dispersing it. Then they come back for 7 times, and they will put healing light back in that to replace the negative energy they pulled out. And this tool will do the same thing. It's super powerful. I have people, when they come to my stand, like you did, they'll pick this up and immediately, lots of times, they'll just hold it up and say, this is mine, because they can feel the powerful energy of it. I'm very careful to make these products. I call in other energies. The guy who began this process, Slim Sperling, through a reader, or I forget who it was or how many, but he said invite him in and he will work with you. And so I do. Every day I make sure that I'm not in an agitated state, that I'm open and clear, and I ask them to pour their energies into me, and especially into the rings for the people who are using them, into all the products, so that they can get the highest degree of benefit from them. What else can I tell you about them? I kind of flew through this. I feel like I'm at an expo, so I'm always busy, just like running off, you know, and before the people run off, I try to get as much information out in as short a time. I started making neck rings, which I'm holding right here. Not too long ago, I got connected with the guy in Florida, Devon, the black airbender. The guy does breathing techniques like Wim Hof, but different. And so I'm looking at his Instagram, and he's got all these friends wearing these neck rings. So I thought, okay, let's make these. And sure enough, people would come in with distressed from the energy of the building, and we'll put these neck rings on them, and their body just seems to instantly relax. So it's been a great enhancement for our business and for individuals who are having problems. There are people who wear these all the time when they're driving. I also make rings like these. I don't know if you experienced these, Andrew, the big one, the big. So we take these large round rings. They're about 26, 29 inches in diameter. And we'll have a person stand in front of us, and we'll slowly bring the ring down over their body. And when they feel a tug and a pull or some kind of discomfort, they'll let us know, or sometimes we'll feel it, and we'll stop and work it, and it releases it. One time we had a lady, when we got to her heart, she jumped and said, "Oh, you shocked me." And we're thinking, uh-oh, what do we do? And she goes, no, go ahead and keep it there. And then afterwards, she told us that she had this awful relationship with her daughter, and it had all this pain in her heart, her chest. And she says, after working that for a little while, for half a minute or so, we released everything. So we found out that we use mostly 4 different measurements for 4 frequencies. One is called a sacred cubit, which is strictly for the physical body and for the earth. It's a connection with that. Another one's called a lost cubit. That is for your energy body out here, because most of the problems that people incur start in their energy body through stress or some kind of emotional experience like resentment and guilt and shame. They hold it out here, and if they don't learn to release that and to overcome those things, then it becomes dis-ease in their body. So the lost cubit works on the energetic body and the physical. Then we have what's called a harmony and balance, which connects you with the earth elements. It's like a love, peace kind of feeling. And what can I say? I mean, they're just, you know, I have people try out the different rings when they come in, and they'll choose the one that feels the best for them. And then the last one, which is what the large sphere is that I'm sitting in, is made of, is called a galactic ascension ring. That is made totally different. It's got a very light twist. I don't know if you can see this as compared to, let me look here. Okay, so This wire has a very tight twist. This has a very light twist. And the idea, each one of those light twists creates a torus around it. If you know what a torus is, it's an energetic field. Your body has a torus, and it'll come out of your head and come down into here, and then it comes out the lower part of your root chakra and comes up this way. The earth does the same thing with the poles. It has these fields, and so these toroids work across, and it's been measured that an individual who sits in one for a long period of time, they've measured the telomeres on the chromosomes. Are you familiar with these at all, Andrew? Okay, so there are little string-like filaments on the end of your chromosomes, and the older you get, the shorter they get. When the individual sat in the galactic ascension ring for a long period of time, I don't have the time on that, but they've measured the telomeres begin to grow. So we have what you might call a room temperature superconductor. These are powerful, very powerful units. They don't have to be cleaned. They can get really tarnished, and they'll produce the same energy forever because of this field that's inside here, tensor field. Because they do that, because the energy is perpetual, I mean, you've always, we have them under our bed. And we've had people come in who take, like this one lady especially, took 4 different protocols before she went to bed in order to sleep 2.5 to 4 hours. So she does tart cherry juice and all this stuff. So she bought 2 of the sacred cubits to put under her bed, and my wife suggested that she takes the ring, brings it down over herself before she gets into bed slowly, and they clear her energy field. Don't take any of her protocols, and she put them under the bed, and she came running into our show the next day. They got 7 hours of sleep, was so ecstatic. She's never slept that long. And she's given us reports. I've had 8.2 hours today. And so I'm just emphasizing that, you know, they work. I'm very privileged and grateful to be making these objects. I was going to tell you something else and totally lost my train of thought there. Now this is brand new. This galactic, it's called a Super G, a supersized galactic Genessa generator. So, okay, let me share this. This is it's called a Genessa crystal. It's the same thing, only it's smaller. It's a room size. The energy on this will go for about 5 miles in each direction. But this is a large Genessa crystal that I'm sitting in, and there's no crystal involved in it. Just the name they gave it. Some people call it a Genessa crystal. But we were asked by a practitioner who does energy healing work if we could make something that someone could sit in, because she has people who have difficulty maneuvering around, and she could bring them into her place and just have them sit in here for a period of 20 minutes or so and to get energized. And so we made one, and sure enough, we've sold a couple of them, and this lady purchased one, and she had a friend come over who was dead tired. And she came over to get her energy session, and Amy told her, just go ahead and sit in the ring for a while. And she said 20 minutes in the ring, and she felt like a totally new person, energized, light, just couldn't believe it. And so she called, and she wanted one. She wanted one for herself. So there's the long and the short of it. Do you have any questions? Go ahead.
Yes. That thing you said about the twist on the rings producing a torus. I have a bracelet here of sterling silver, Mia Bella, Italy, stone silver bracelet, which has a similar twist to it. Now, this is the kind of bracelet that I've actually decorated all over my property, and my folks consider it to be a weird obsession. But based on what you are saying, it's actually a very intelligent idea for me to do something like that, because the twist in these bracelets is actually producing a torus, which would, well, produce many beneficial effects. They asked me, why don't you, my folks say, you're wasting your money on this. If you want to buy silver, buy the silver bullion and the bullion bars. And I tell them, well, okay, but that's nowhere near as good as the energy that can be produced from something like this that has a shape to it and actually allows for the flow of energy. Silver coins and silver bullion, they just sit there and emanate the energy, but these things that have shape and twist to them, they allow for the flow of energy. And I've decorated my property, and all the like hooks on the outside of the property I've hung these bracelets from. And based on what you're saying, that's actually going to cause beneficial things to flow to my property. Is that right?
Well, I don't know about the one you're wearing. I would say that would be so, but these are all, even the small ones that are made are cut very specific. So I don't know how your bracelet is made. If they have a sacred cubit that they use for measuring. Some people infuse their energy, or they'll call in other energies, and actually that's what I do. I don't know how much that helps to have an intention to pull in loving, like angelic or ascended masters energies, but I believe intention is everything, and really we have the power ourselves to do these things for the healing and to resist this EMF. But in the meantime, we're using tools. We go to the doctors. So that's, but I don't know what your silver bracelets will do. I have to look them up. Check them.
Right. So take a look at your site here. How do Tensor Rings protect you from EMFs? Well, not just EMFs. There are other things that are negative out there that can affect us, such as entities that can hijack your chakra system. Can these copper tools protect you from entities that can hijack your chakra system?
Yeah, they can actually help release it. They have, I've sat in 2 rings, had my R taken, and sat in a couple of rings for 15 minutes, had my R taken again, and my chakras were all, beforehand, they looked like a scrambled egg, kind of out of shape. After I sat in the rings for 15 minutes, all my chakras were beautiful. Now, I know what you're saying about other energies. So one of the reasons I brought this particular feedback loop out, there's a standard feedback loop that just has a single wire wrap. This is a double wire. It's called a new dimension. And this works on those kind of things. It works on stuck energies, entities. We had a lady come here with a neck injury, and she said chiropractors could not fix it. And so then she told us that she went to a reader and found out that she died in a previous life from a neck injury. And so I brought this out. This works on past lives, inherited stuff, and it works on other energies from other dimensions. So she took and held this on her neck for about 10 minutes, and she claims that the pain is gone and has never returned. So that's something from a past life. But I have had, you can use it if you have a stuck energy. Lots of times people will get an entity in their solar plexus. Not sure why, that's your power center, I guess, but they've used this to help release it. The woman who asked about this particular sphere was having a difficult time opening up the chakras of a person, and she took this double wire feedback loop and put it between the lady's feet, pointing upward, and then brought the large ring down over her. And she said, as she started to bring the ring down, it was like bang, 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 bang. Each chakra just lined up, and they were all working in coherence. So I don't know if that answers your question about the negative energies coming in, but I know that the tools are very useful, and I have instructions that I send out with with the large rings and with the feedback loops and with the spheres, so people can try different things. But I found that individuals who work with energy using their own intuition can see things and they feel things and know this is what I need to do with this. They just have a knowing, and I'm sure that they're working with other energies that are helping them to see things. So I've seen two young women working with the large rings, and instead of bringing them down over, the one was doing figure eights and walking around the other person, and the person was experiencing amazing energy. She was just smiles and loving it. So I would have never even thought of doing that. And let me share one other thing we're doing right now. We started making a double wire ring, okay? And we can't keep these. When we go somewhere, I've got to stockpile these. People are calling it their halo. When they put it on their head, immediately feel this energy. I was at a sound healing on Saturday night, and the guy said, bring a couple of your tensor rings. I've been talking to people about them. And I only had two of these. And once you know, two guys, usually the ladies who experience the energy first. But two of the guys there put these on their head and they just wouldn't take them off. They just, how much is this? And they had them on all night. So this is a beautiful, beautiful energy ring. We've released people's migraine headaches. Oh, I know what I was going to say. That talking about the migraine headache, we make a ring for your smart meter. All the wires right now in your home emit microwave radiation coming from the electric meter in the box. And so besides the boys club listening to all the things that we're doing, they're listening anyway. You could hang this ring on your smart meter and it will neutralize all the wires, so they're no longer emitting that radiation. Now they don't block it like a Faraday cage. If you put over your meter, will literally bounce that microwave radiation back into the atmosphere. These tensor rings literally neutralize it, to me, which is a lot more beneficial than sending the stuff back out. I mean, I don't even know how all of this works. I've looked at it, and the people who test it aren't sure exactly how it works. Even there's a controversy. You talk about tensor fields and scalar energy, and what is the other one? Anyway, lost my thought, but go ahead.
That's cool. All right, I guess at this point on the show, all subscribers, please pay me on Patreon to be able to listen to the rest of this interview for however long it goes. Of course, we've reached a day and age where it's time for people to profit off their work. I feel like I'm no exception. So by all means, folks, please, if you are interested in learning about more interesting things that we can talk about on these shows, please subscribe so you can get these shows in their entirety from this point onward. The rest of this interview will be pay-per-view. So